Atlanta, what's up? What's up? How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? It's good to see you all again here on Bleacher Report. My name is Marquise Cheney, and we're here with another live stream to talk about these Falcons, man. We're going to talk about these Falcons. We're going to talk about this offseason. We're going to talk about how we feel about our current roster. And if you all have any concerns with this roster, I'm going to let y'all know now. I ain't worried, man. I'm not too worried about this roster. I think we have a good football team. Definitely not worried about the offense. I think we'll be able to do what we have to do to put points on the board, move the chains. I think we'll be very competitive just with the offense alone. Now, the defense, maybe. I think there's a lot of question marks on that side. But for the most part, I feel pretty good about the Falcons roster. So, as you all come in, let me know how you feel about the roster. We're going to go through the depth chart. We're going to talk about some of the different additions, some of the different things that's happened so far in this offseason. We're going to see, is this roster good enough to win the NFC South? Is it good enough to win the NFC South? So like I said, as you come in, get comfortable, man. We're going to have a good show. It's going to be nice and smooth. We're going to talk about these dirty birds. And we're going to talk about the addition of Kirk Cousins. Because March 13th, pretty much as soon as the clock hit midnight, we all knew we were going to get Kirk. And since then, man, it's been a very eventful offseason. You know, we started the offseason, we get Kirk Cousins, we go get Darnell Mooney, we trade Desmond Ridder. I mean, we had a lot of action right before the NFL draft. Then we get to the draft, we had the 8th pick, and we just all knew we were going to get defensive end. We're going to get defensive end. We're going to maybe consider corner, maybe offensive line. But to all our surprise, we draft Michael Penix with the 8th overall selection. And if y'all remember me, man, I wasn't too happy about the pick. I feel like it was one of the dumbest decisions ever. Now, you know, I kind of come back to earth a little bit. You know, I see the value in the pick. You know, I've always seen the value of the pick. I just didn't like how we went about it, right? So we go get Michael Penix. We add him to the team. You know, we're thinking about now with Kirk Cousins. We're thinking about the future of Michael Penix. Then we just doubled down, tripled down. We just went completely crazy in the draft when it came to D-line. And now it seems like, okay, the roster's filling out. You know, we have depth at one of our weak spots. But it still feels like we have not addressed the defensive back room. So as you can see, we got T-Fan. They're still saying, hey, we need a cornerback and a wide receiver 3. We still need a cornerback, and we need some more wide receiver depth. We got prime time in the building. Let's go Falcons, rise up. Rise up. We got D-Lane. What's up, D? He's saying, I think we can get it done. And I think he's assuming, I'm going to assume that he's talking about winning the NFC South. We got Prime Time back saying we are a playoff team. We got Ralph saying we need a little bit more. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at our roster, look at our depth chart, and see, do we really need to add anything, or do we have everything we need? Let's see. Let me get this overlay off so we can really look at this team, man. So like I said earlier in the show, I feel pretty good about the offense, man. So let's start with the defense. Let's start with the defense and see what we're working with. Notice how the defense is not even listed. All right, so forgive me. Let's not start with the defense. Let's start with the offense. So, like I said, we got Kirk Cousins, we got Penix, we got Taylor Heineke rounding out that quarterback room. My question to you all is, how do y'all feel about Taylor Heineke's chances of making this team? How do y'all feel about Taylor Heineke's chances of making this roster, man? I'm not too sure about Taylor. You know, or maybe is there a world where Taylor ends up being the backup quarterback, Michael Penix is the third quarterback, And not only is he the third quarterback, but Michael Penix doesn't even dress out. He's inactive. I don't think people are talking about that possibility enough because we just restructured Taylor Heinicke's contract. So he's getting a fully guaranteed contract for the remainder of this season. So we don't really benefit for cutting him. We already saved some money. Is there a chance that Michael Penix is not active week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is that possible? So that's gonna be something we keep our eyes on. Like I said, I feel pretty good about this quarterback room though overall. I think it's the best quarterback room in the NFL. And I think whether Taylor Heinicke is quarterback 2, Michael Penix is quarterback 2, I still feel good about our chances if Kirk Cousins got hurt. If he got hurt. But let's not, let me knock on wood. Let me not put that out into the world. Now the running back room. I said we had the strongest quarterback room. Do we have the strongest running back room in the NFL? Chat, do we have the strongest running back room in the NFL? Because I think when we think of Bijan Robinson, right, we think of his rookie year, I think we feel pretty good, but we have to remember his rookie season was attached to Arthur Smith. It was attached to Arthur Smith. So we really don't even understand how good this guy is. Same thing with Drake London. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. So chat, do we have the best running back room in the league? We think we got the best quarterback room, but we have Bijan Robinson, had an excellent rookie season. Let's see if we can pull up his stats. He had 200 carries. Should have had more, right? Should have had way more carries. Just finished less than 1,000 yards rushing, and he had just less than 500 receiving. I mean, that's a pretty good season for a rookie. And we can imagine him getting up to 300 carries. I'll take 500 yards again. He has a real good shot, though, to get 2,000 all-purpose yards this season. And if he does that and you have a guy like Tyler Algier just backup running back, I mean, to me, that's not like the best running back room in the NFL. As we all remember, Tyler Algier, he had a great rookie season. He broke the rookie rushing record, finished that season with 1,000 yards. I mean, that's a strong lineup, if you ask me. Now we're going to look at the wide receivers. I think this is going to get interesting. We had T-Fan earlier saying we need to add a cornerback. We also need to add a wide receiver. I might have to disagree, man. I think we have a pretty good group. This group is definitely much improved compared to last year. You have Drake London. He has his shot with Kirk Cousins. So we're going to really see, was Drake London worth the top 10 selection? Is Drake London that guy? And I think we all agree when he had the targets, when he had his opportunities, he showed us that he is an elite wide receiver, and he's also elite after the catch. I mean, he's not an easy guy to bring down. So I'm excited about Drake London and his progression. You're looking at Darnell Mooney, a guy we added from Chicago. He started off his career good, kind of fell off a little bit, dealt with some injuries, dealing with the system, dealing with Justin Fields. So I'm excited about Mooney because Mooney's kind of in that same breath as Drake London, right? Guys that have skill, they have talent, they have potential. But when you're playing with Desmond Ridder or you're playing with Justin Fields or when you have Arthur Smith calling plays, it's hard to produce and show your worth. So, again, Darnell Mooney is another guy that we cannot sleep on when we're talking about adding another wide receiver. I think he's going to have a big role with us here in Atlanta. We all know we traded Desmond Ridder for Rondale Moore. I think he'll be a gadget player. He'll be a guy that can, stretch the defense. He'll help us vertically. And again, he could do a lot of different things. He can run the ball. He can return kicks. Like, he's just going to be a very explosive player for us. And even when we, go down the list a little bit and we look at Casey Washington, the rookie, 6th round pick, He's been making a lot of noise in camp. He's been making a lot of noise so far in OTAs. So I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do. You know, he'll take a break after the OTAs, try to put everything together. And I think he may be able to fight for that number 3 position as a 6th-round pick. So I'm feeling pretty good about the wide receiver room. We all know about the tight end room. You know, we went out and we added Charlie Warner. He's going to be more of a blocking tight end. Just came from San Francisco. But, I mean, the guy at the top of the list, Kyle Pitts, it's time, bro. It's time, bro. You know, you have everything you need. So, again, when I'm looking at the offense, I'm not worried at all. I think we all agree, right, chat? The offense is good to go. You know, the offense is good to go. We have one comment saying Penix probably going to suit up. There's a chance he isn't active week 1, though. I think people aren't talking about this enough. Penix might not be active because if you think about it from a business standpoint, right? From a team building standpoint, you just look at it with logic. Well, it really doesn't make sense for him to even have his helmet. Because if he has his helmet and Kirk Cousins, if anything happens with Kirk Cousins, anything, people are going to say, hey, we'll put in Penix. But if Penix is not even dressed out, then, you know, that narrative should disappear. But yeah, let's keep an eye on that. You know, I feel like we all are very confident Penix is going to play a lot in the preseason. But don't be surprised if Penix is quarterback 3 and he is not active week 1. Don't be surprised. Let's catch up with the chat. Let's see. All right, so everyone else talking about defense. So let's go look at the defense, man. I think we all agree, right? The offense should be all right. Even last season with Arthur Smith, Desmond Ridder, you know, rookie running back, no real wide receiver too. We were still able to move the ball well in between the 20s. It was just difficult for us to score. And we were having just some of the worst turnovers at the worst times. I mean, but like I said, in between the 20s, we were a good football team, man. We can move the ball. We can control the clock. So now you add Kirk Cousins, you add Mooney, you add Moore, you know, you add Zach Robinson. I think we should all feel pretty good about the offensive depth chart so far. I'm going to pull up the defense. We're going to take a look into that. Not too sure why this website doesn't have the defense listed as well. But that's all right. We're going to take a look at this defense, man. I think this is when it gets a little questionable. I think this is when I start to have some of these concerns. All right, so look at defense. I think the biggest need this offseason, if you ask me, was to address the quarterback position. We did that. Not only did we do that, we doubled down. Spent $100 million on Kirk. We spent the number 8 pick in the NFL draft on Michael Penix. So that's checked off. Matter of fact, you got 2 checks. Then the next need was pass rush. We need to get to the quarterback, right? We need to get to the quarterback. And I think we addressed it. Y'all let me know how y'all feel. But we're looking at Zach Harrison, David Amiata, and Grady Jarrett as our starting defensive lineman in the 3-4. And I think that's a solid 3. You know, you're looking at Zach Harrison. You're expecting him to replace Calais Campbell. I think he's capable. He has a size. He had moments last season. But then you start to look at the edge players. So you got Arnold coming back. You know, he had 6 sacks last season. He has an opportunity to take that next step. So I think we're banking on Arnold to take that next step. Then you have Ricardo on the other side. He'll probably be in there for the early downs, right? He'll be there for the clear rundowns. and occasionally, he can give you a little pass rush. But I think the name we need to keep an eye out on, especially with training camp coming up, is Bralen Trice. Bralen Trice is a guy that I think addressed the pass rush issues. We got X saying no, pass rush is still a weakness for the last 15 years. Yes, ever since John Abraham retired, we refuse to address this position seriously. But I think I lucked up with the selection of Bralen Trice in the 3rd round. I think this is a guy that can come in. He can be a versatile. He can come in on rundowns. He can come in on passing downs. But I think he'll be able to produce. And I say that because this was one of the most productive pass rushers in college football the past 2 seasons. In 2022, Bralen Trice led the nation in pressures with 70. He led the nation, and not only did he lead the nation, but he also broke PFF's all-time record for individual pressures in a game. Against Washington State, he had 18 pressures in one game. Then last season in 2023, he had a game against Stanford where he had 16 pressures, chat. You had a game when you had 18 pressures and another game when you had 16. I think we don't need to overlook the addition of Bralen Trice. And one thing's for sure, even in 2016, he had our most success, right? We benefited by having a good, solid defensive line rotation. And when you look at Zach Harrison, Brandon Dorless, you got Amiata right there. Then you have Rook. And I think Rook will probably play. Rook might not play nose tackle, but he does show versatility. Then you have Grady Jarrett. Then you have Contavious Street. Taquan Graham. Eddie Goldman. Will he retire again? If he doesn't retire again, he's going to be a great player for camp and a great rotational defensive tackle. So as long as you keep rotating these guys in, we'll be able to get fresh pass rushers in. And I think a fresh Bralen Trice will be extremely beneficial to this Atlanta Falcons roster. Now, when we look at corner, though, here comes the question marks because we did not address corner at all this offseason. And I think if there was still a move to be made is to add depth for the defensive back room, not just the corners, but also the safeties. We need to add depth because we have Clark Phillips, as the starting right corner right now. We have DeMarco Helms as our starting safety. These were 2 of our draft picks from last season. One was picked in the 4th round. The DeMarco Helms was picked in the 7th. And if you tell me that we're going to be depending on day 3 guys as starters, in their 2nd year, okay, I'm going to be a little concerned, especially when you look at the depth. I mean, we have Kevin King. This is a guy we just signed this offseason. He's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with inconsistencies. I'm not excited about him. I'm excited to see him in camp, but I'm not excited about him potentially starting if someone got hurt. Then in the nickel spot, we have D. Alford and Mike Hughes, 2 guys that played that position last season, as well as Clark Phillips. And I think the right cornerback spot, it's solidified, right? AJ, he's a dog. We know what we're going to get out of him. Hopefully we can see him shadow more wide receivers this season. And I feel good about the nickel position. I really do, because even if Clark Phillips isn't starting outside, I still feel good about him as a football player. Get him on the field. But it's that left cornerback position. It's that cornerback 2 position where I think there's still a move to be made. D-Lane saying Xavier Howard still out there. Go get him. Am I adding him for depth? This is a proven guy. He's dealt with some injuries, but this is a guy that you will want to have on your roster for emergency situations. We got Prime Time saying we should have kept Jeff Okudah. I definitely think Jeff Okudah, he made some money with us last season. He showed he's a solid player. And I agree. I would have liked to bring him back just to have that continuity. Because we got to remember, Jeff Okudah was a number 3 pick, and there's a reason why. And so I agree. I would have liked to keep Jeff, but maybe they saw enough in Clark Phillips where they say, you know what, it doesn't make sense to take away snaps away from Clark. So let's let Jeff walk. Pronton's also saying we should have traded for Budda Baker. I think that's still possible, man. I think that's still possible. And I think something's gonna happen. Whether a team releases a solid corner, we pick him up, bring him in for count. Whether it was we make a savvy trade, I definitely think there's an opportunity for us to add another corner. We got X-Rod said we need that Gilmore, Howard, or Steven Nelson, a trade for a pass rusher like Trey Hendrickson. He is not happy in Cincinnati. And that's been pretty obvious from Trey Hendrickson. He wants his money. I know Cincinnati, they're taking their time with paying him. So that'll be interesting, man. That'll be interesting. But like I said, we just added a guy like Bralen Trice to our defensive line rotation. And I think a guy like Trey Hendrickson makes a lot of sense, but maybe not yet, right? Like, let's let these guys go through camp. Let's let them go through mini camp, training camp. Let's see them in preseason and see what we got. Because we got to remember, we added Zach Harrison last year. We just added Brandon Dorless. We just added Rook. We just added Bralen Trice. Like, we got a lot of guys that we need to see what they bring before we trade for a pass rusher, even though I would love to add Trey Hendrickson. Primetime also saying we need to add players like Micah Parsons. Yes, I mean, if it was out easy, I would agree. But, Micah Parsons is not going to be cheap. And then the question that I think we all have is, where is Richie Grant? Now, Richie Grant is right here, as you can see. He's not in this column because his play has put him in this column. And Richie Grant, man, is a player. Oh, man, we spent a second-round pick on this guy. And I think he's capable, man. I definitely think he's capable. Let's see if we can pull up his stats. 26 years old, his 4th year in the league. I think he's capable, man, to be a good player. I really do. But I also think DeMarco Hellams is capable of being a good player too. One thing that Richie grows with is coverage. Coming into the draft, that was one of the knocks on DeMarco Hellams. And I think as a rookie, DeMarco Hellams showed that he can improve in coverage. He showed moments. He showed his athleticism. And the one thing he's definitely showing, DeMarco Hellams, that is that he can tackle. And that, those characteristics, it hurts Richie Grant because Richie Grant was showing some inconsistencies, throughout his whole game. And I think we saw the best Richie Grant when we were putting him in positions to blitz the quarterback. So I like Richie Grant as a depth safety. If we ever go to 3 safety looks, not mad at Richie Grant. There's a guy that has good size. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. It's a guy you can use as a big nickel. You can use as like a hybrid linebacker safety. And I think that's his value, right? I think he lost his starting spot, man. I think it's DeMarco Hellams' job to lose. We got to remember DeMarco Hellams, his last season at Alabama, led Alabama in tackles. So this is a guy that's been able to produce at one of the top schools. And I just think it's his job to lose. Richie Grant, you let up just enough. I just think it's over with, bro. I'm sorry. But D-Lane saying he's capable, but Helen might be a better coverage guy. And that's surprising because, if you look at both their college tape, it'll be no doubt that Richie Grant was the better prospect coming into the NFL. But it shows you, man, hard work, that pedigree of playing at Alabama. You playing with dogs in practice. The guy behind you is a dog, so you have to be on your A game. And I just think he brought that to camp. He showed value in special teams. Then when he got his chance to play, he was extremely solid. Let's pull up DeMarco Hellams and get units of good size. He's 6'1", 213, so he's a little bigger. He's clearly younger. He's just a good overall player, man. He's just a good overall player, and I think it's his job to lose. But he said we got Primetime saying you're right about Richie. Yeah, man. I wish I wasn't, because Richie, man, he has potential. And one thing about defensive backs, so just defenders, is it ain't over till it's over. Like, he has plenty of time to still bounce back, still be an excellent player in this league. So for the Falcons to kind of have that problem, I think it's a good problem to have. Jesse Bates and DeMarco Hellams and Richie Grant, they got a whole season with Jesse Bates. So they're learning, they're picking his brain, and that's only going to make them better, right? Having that competition. Now, I think this will be one of the better competitions to keep an eye out on in camp. This is what camp's about, right? Iron sharpen iron. You don't want it to be easy, even with this cornerback room. I think we have, 4 solid corners that battle it out. You just let the best man come on top. So I feel good about our camp battles, but I still think that we need to add depth in the defensive back room. Definitely need to add depth. But like I said, I'm not too worried. I'm not too concerned with this Falcon roster. I feel pretty good. I'm curious of what y'all think. How confident are you all with Atlanta's current roster? Let me know in the chat. I just sent out the poll. One of the options is I feel good. I think we win the division with this roster. Another option is I feel good, but I think we can still add depth. And if I was voting, that would be my vote. I feel good, but let's not get too comfortable with this roster. And then the last option is I'm concerned. I don't trust the defense. And if you didn't trust the defense, I'm going to be mad at you. There's a lot of question marks with this defense. We all remember last season, the defense made strides, but the defense also let up a lot at the end of the games in the second part of the season. We got Rod asking, do I think this roster can compete with playoff rosters in the elite of the NFL? That's a great question, man. I really think we can. We've been doing it the past couple seasons. I'm going to try to pull up this Falcon schedule because that's really what it's about, right? You don't really have to compete with anybody but yourself because, the schedule's out. There's going to be no surprises. We know exactly who we're going to face, when we're going to face them, where we're going to face them. So now it's about just us preparing and put ourselves in the best position possible. Pull up the schedule real quick so we can, answer that question. I think that's a good question. When you look at Pittsburgh roster, I think we have a roster that can compete with Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, they have an elite head coach in Mike Tomlin. He's always going to have his guys ready. And I think our current roster can compete with Pittsburgh. When you look at Philly, Kansas City, these are good tests for us. And I think this is when we'll really know how good the roster is. This is when we'll either have concerns on our roster or we'll be buying playoff tickets if, we can find a way to look competitive against these two teams. Again, we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. They were just in the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. The Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back champs, we'll have a great idea of how this roster stacks up by the time we get to week 4. When I look at the aim, I laugh. I'm not worried about them at all. I look at Tampa Bay. I don't laugh. You got to respect the NFC champs, but I still feel pretty good. You look at the Panthers. I mean, I think you get the trend. I'm not too worried. I think our roster currently stacks up well with everybody. We have an elite quarterback, an elite running back, elite wide receiver, an elite tight end. I think one thing that is being overlooked when we are considering this team is we have a good offensive lineman. This whole offseason, we have not said ChrisLindstrom's name, and he's the best player on our team. So we have an elite quarterback, elite running back, elite wide receiver, elite tight end, elite guard. We have 2 good tackles, if you ask me. We spent a second-round pick on Bergeron last season. He might come back and be elite. I mean, why not? He showed he was extremely capable. So we have an elite offense. How many teams in the league have an elite offense? Then when you look at the defense, man, we tripled down on the defensive line in the draft. So we have youth. We have a guy like Zach Harrison coming back. Another year of experience. He was mentored by Calais Campbell. He has Grady Jarrett next to him. He has David Onyemata next to him. Another very underrated player. So I'm feeling good about the defensive line when you compare it to other teams. You look at the linebacker room, we're able to bring back Troy Anderson. And if he's a depth player for us, that's exciting. He was a second-round pick. He can take a leap. Who knows? Maybe he can be that Swift Army knight, and he can be a sneaky pass rusher for the Atlanta Falcons. Then you look at the cornerback room. We already know about AJ. We know about Jesse Bates. And when you just look from the top to the bottom of our roster, man, we have a good roster. We've had a solid roster the past 2 seasons. Now it's up to leadership. Now it's up to our offensive play caller. Now it's up to our defensive play caller. Now it's up to the fans, man. Now it's up to us to do our part. Because I feel like Terry has put together a good enough roster for us to compete with the elites of the NFL. We got Primetime. Primetime, you everywhere. You everywhere on today's stream, bro. We should have never hired Raheem Morris. I'm assuming you mean we should have never fired Raheem Morris. Correct me if I'm wrong, Primetime. They played KC early with all their new speed. Yeah, KC is going to be interesting, man, especially with our DB room. They added Marquise Brown. They added the boy from Texas. They got Rice, they got Kelsey, and they got a guy named Pat Mahomes. So that's definitely a good test. D-Lane saying we get a few early tests to see how this will go, but we will win the division. I agree, man. I agree. Troy got to stay healthy. Troy has to stay healthy, man. Troy has to stay healthy. This is a make-or-break year. And I think we saw the same thing last year with Troy Anderson, and the same thing happened to Richie Grant. You let these guys behind you get their opportunity, bro. You can't just come in the next season and have a guaranteed spot on the team. Yes, I'm saying that loud and clear. Troy Anderson is not a lock for this team. Richie Grant is not a lock for this team. And they're both second-round picks. We got X-Rod saying Mcgary is the weakness of the O-line. He's a run blocker with more emphasis on passing. He gets exposed by the good rushers. I think that narrative, man, is outdated, bro. Mcgary was not a great pass blocker his rookie season. He's improved since, and he's been one of the better tackles in football. Is he perfect? No, he's not perfect. But I don't think he's the weakness because he's such a good run blocker that him being an average pass blocker it's okay. it's okay. But I really think that's an outdated narrative when it comes to Caleb Mcgary. I'm trying to pull up his PFF record score last season. I think that's outdated. Let's see. Let's look at it together real quick. So we're looking at a 6'6" tackle. He just got his bag. Last year he's in the green. Got a 75.5. And if you tell me that 75.5 is weak, then you just have high standards. I mean, he's in the green. He only allowed 4 sacks last season, only had 3 penalties. And again, this is playing with Desmond Ridder, right? Let's look at 2022. 2022 had an 87 PFF grade. So I think this narrative that he's our weakness is because of this season. His rookie season, yes, he was extremely weak. Is this Caleb Mcgary still? Well, I guess that wasn't his rookie season, but that was 2021. Yes, weak sauce. 2022. His rookie season. Oh my Lord, 53. To me, that's weak. You get a 53 on anything, you weak, bruh. But 2022, 86.6 grade. I'll take that every day of the week. Last season, he was a 76. And remember, early season, ChrisLindstrom was also kind of iffy. He turned his game around, but this is a guy he has to play next to. And ChrisLindstrom, oh my gosh, he got an 88. But we need everybody watching live, watching the replay, hashtag ChrisLindstrom, man, because we need to put some respect on this young man's name. He is the best player on our team, and we ain't said his name the whole offseason. He is the best player on this team, and we have yet to say his name once. So again, I'm feeling pretty good. Let's see. We got X-Rod saying he was hitting because they ran the ball more than anybody. Now they're passing more, is all I'm saying. Yeah, that's true. But the benefit of this offense is that it's going to be a lot of quick passes. I think Mcgary is good enough to hold his own, for 2 seconds, right? He's not that bad. But I agree. If there was a weak spot, it's probably going to go to Bergeron. He's inexperienced. And then the next guy would be Caleb Mcgary. But I'm still feeling really good about this offensive line, feeling really good about this team. I think we can add a little bit more. But I think currently this roster is good enough. I think this roster is good enough to win the NFC South. And if you tell me this team gets a home playoff game, we get an opportunity to play on our own turf, the league better watch out. But, man, I appreciate y'all for coming through, talking Falcons football. Y'all have to forgive me for being a little tardy, man. I had a little technical difficulties. Shout out to Bryce. We're going to get you on here, man. Shout out to y'all for watching. But until next time, you already know. Rise up.